There's messages in every game, like Pac-Man. Do you know what PAC stands for?
PAC, program and control. He's program and control man. The whole thing's a metaphor.
Tucson police say they received a 911 call around 9 p.m. last night, and Tucson Fire provided aid to the 21-year-old, but he was pronounced dead. Police say they found drug paraphernalia on his tour bus, but they believe there is no sign of foul play. I spoke with one fan who was here last night for the concert who says he's noticed for the past 2 to 3 years that the rapper was calling out for help on his social media.
It's like losing your best friend. It's losing your soulmate. It's losing the one thing that made you whole, for me.
Courtney Bartley had only been married 4 years.
It was all I could ever ask for. He was one of the sweetest men I'd ever met.
After years of sobriety, her husband Seth overdosed on fentanyl on March 30th last year. 4-year-old Isla and 2-year-old Elise barely knew their dad.
You can look back over the last 10, 20 years. When it comes to opioid-related mortality, we've seen a significant increase in the number of overdose deaths nationally over the last 10 years in particular.
It was 2 years ago. Amber Pereira was driving drunk on the Selman Expressway and slammed into the Philippic family, killing Louise, Rita, and their 8-year-old daughter, Georgia.
Drugs. They are neither good or bad. It is how they are used that determine that. How much, how often, the when, the where, and the circumstances that surround your life while using them. It's a lot of factors, I know, but drugs are an incredibly complicated subject and have played a very big role in the human race's development to this point. A lot of good has come from them.
Well, in terms of treatment, there's pretty solid evidence that can be helpful in alleviating chronic pain in adults, nausea from chemotherapy, and then spasticity or muscle spasm in people with multiple sclerosis.
But a lot of bad as well.
A new study out from the CDC says overdose deaths surged during the pandemic as more drugs were laced with fentanyl.
And in recent years, I've seen the youth, our generation, suffer tremendously due to drug use. This documentary isn't here to educate you on the different kinds of drugs or tell you how they're going to ruin your life. It's simply a platform for people who have used drugs to share their experiences on and off of them, and to potentially change the way you look at your relationship with drugs. In no way am I trying to tell you how to live your life in this documentary. I'm simply just giving these people a platform to tell you their experiences on them, and you can make your mind up. You can leave here different or the same. Thank you for watching, and leave a comment below sharing your experiences or thoughts, or if you disagree with me on anything.
I want to start with your full name and where you're from.
My name is Connor, Timothy, and Sonia. I'm from Amsterdam, New York.
In the last Detox documentary, do you remember what drugs that you said you quit?
I said I would quit all of them except for alcohol and nicotine.
And how successful were you with that?
Not very.
Do you harbor any guilt for that? Do you feel bad, or do you just kind of?
Honestly, I don't know. At least me personally, being sober and convincing your I don't know. I couldn't convince myself that being completely sober was enjoyable because all I thought about was not being sober. So having them in my life and just being able to form a healthy relationship with my drug use and have self-control now. I don't know. I can justify it with all the shit I do too. I just smoke weed mostly, like occasionally here and there, you know, fucking whatever, but.
What did you learn about your relationship with drug use because of that?
Well, I found out that I have a lot more power over my addictions than I thought I did. So.
I like that. That's huge. Are you comfortable with your situation with drugs right now? Seems like you are, but.
Very. I mean, like, I think sometimes I smoke a little too much weed.
Yeah.
But that's about as far as it goes.
How did the people around you in your life react to you quitting back when we quit the first time? Like in that span of time between then and now?
A lot of people were really proud of me, but at the same time, like, I get why showing off that you're sober to everybody all the time can come off as, like, annoying. You know what I mean?
Because it's kind of like being like...
I'm better than you.
Yeah,
like, I'm clean, you're not type shit, you know? I know that's not how you think about it, and I know it's not, you know...
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I agree with you completely.
Like, I know that's how I came off. I was like, them shit, like, I don't need that shit, you don't need that shit, like, it's just, I don't know, bro, different strokes for different folks.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on our generation's drug use? Do you think that there's a problem? What do you see the most of?
I mean, I don't think it's really, like, it's definitely more commercialized and more popular now, but I think it's also just social media connects everybody with everything more, so like drugs can just become more like commercialized, and that's why vaping's so big now, and fucking like everybody smokes and their mom smokes weed now.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't think it's a problem per se, but just a lot of people can't find that drugs aren't life and are just like life enhancers type shit.
I like that. Have you seen people in your life suffer from drugs personally?
Oh yeah. Family, friends, acquaintances, enemies, everybody.
Everyone around here, not even just in New York, but...
Every one of my close friends has suffered from some kind of drug problem at one point or another, which isn't a bad thing, and it's not exactly something to be proud of, but I feel at the end of the day, if you can say you move past it, you're a stronger person.
Are there any drugs at the moment that you want to quit in the future? Not like at this current moment, but like in the future of your life. Is there anything you want?
I mean, yeah, for sure. By the time I'm like 35, like I really just want to be smoking weed and like maybe doing shrooms here and there. Like I don't want to just be like popping Molly at fucking 50 years old, chilling in my living room, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, that's a good thing.
Yeah, this is not me.
What have you learned from drugs? Any lessons that you've taken away from them that you want to share?
Oh man. I mean, in all reality, like, I think the biggest breakthrough I've ever had with drugs was mushrooms. Like, there's a lot of studies besides psilocybin, but like, the ability to see shit from different perspectives and like, kind of understand, like, it not a new sense of like intelligence, but just like you notice shit you don't normally do.
Like
you have appreciation.
Yeah,
you have appreciation for like just everything a lot more, and I don't know. It definitely connected me with my emotions a lot, and it made me face a lot of shit.
That's good. Well, is there any crazy drug experience you want to share? Anything you think people would find interesting, or one in specific?
Alright, so was this one time, it was around like the 4th of July of last summer. A couple of my old friends, we went to this party out in Toga, and there was this Airbnb, people were jumping off the fucking house and shit, cops were coming up, I had this girl shove some shit in my mouth, I'm not gonna mention what it was, but like, it was just all types of fucked up, and then I got really drunk and woke up in a parking lot, and then fucking had to get dragged inside. And then I woke up the next morning with a bunch of random people around me, my wallet empty, and people blowing my Snapchat up.
Is there a message out there you want to give to everyone? It doesn't specifically have to be about detox, just a message you want people to leave with.
Yeah, actually. Life, you only get so much time on Earth. And like, if you're not enjoying it, what are you living for? If you're not enjoying it or working towards enjoying life, then what are you living for? Time's of the essence always.
It's important to note that drugs in small amounts can be okay. When you're drinking at a party with your friends to unwind at the end of the night, or especially if you need them medically. But it's when it becomes a daily thing you need to get through your day effectively and easily that it becomes a problem. When your mental health depends on them. When you've become so accustomed to the feeling this drug gets you that you can't function normally without it. That's when it becomes a problem.
So, can we start with your name and where you're from?
My name is Seth Callflesh, and I am from a lot of places. I'm in a military family, so I've moved around a lot. Pennsylvania, Virginia, Georgia, Washington, finally New York.
What drugs last interview did you attempt to quit, and how successful were you?
I wanted to quit weed, alcohol, vaping, and everything else, like any other drug I just didn't want to be a part of. And I was definitely very successful. I had a few slip-ups, but I haven't smoked weed in forever, and if I ever did it again, like in the time between last interview and now, I didn't like it. I had a really bad experience, so I decided to just stay off of it. Alcohol, I still drink occasionally with friends, but not as bad as I was. I used to like drink alone all the time. It'd be like on a weekday I'd be drinking, but I stopped with that. I only do it socially now, and nicotine was definitely the hardest thing to quit. I still struggle with it a lot, but I think I'm a lot better than I was or where I was last interview.
Hey man, healthy consumption habits. What did you learn about your relationship with those drugs because of it?
I learned that weed was hurting me a lot more than I thought. Like I thought, because drugs affect everyone differently, and weed has a lot of positive benefits for people, but for me it made me super lazy, unmotivated, and it killed my creativity, which is weird, because with weed it usually heightens people's creativity, but if I ever got like high before a podcast, I couldn't think of anything to say, I wasn't entertaining, I couldn't like write or work on poetry at all, because it like disconnected me from my emotions, and all my work I put a lot of emotion into. That's how I feel like a lot of my stuff is done, is with my emotions and building off of them. And when it came to alcohol, I realized that I was using it because I didn't have weed. Like I was just trying to make like a substitute to fill my boredom. And I found that drugs were just that. It was me like trying to fill my bored, empty spaces with something to just self-entertain, I guess.
That's why we do this.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable with your situation with drugs?
Yeah, I am now. I feel like I'm a lot more productive, and I can find happiness in being sober and like not being on drugs. Like I find a lot of happiness in life without them now, which I think is really, really important.
How did people around you react to you quitting?
A lot of people were really supportive, but even to this day, people still like want me to smoke, and I don't hold it against them. Like they just want to have a good time with me, but a lot of people still really want me to smoke, and that's not to anyone specific. Like everyone does it, and I do take it as a compliment. Like people want to be able to like kick back and have a good time with me, but it definitely makes it difficult sometimes when people are like always offering me to smoke and like just shoving drugs in my face.
It's tempting, dude.
Yeah, it is. It's hard, but I think I'm doing good with it.
You're holding strong.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on our generation's drug use?
I feel like it's definitely a lot more common than I think it should be, but it's not specific to our generation, like it's everybody. I feel like copious amounts of weed is smoked by our generation, like a lot of weed is smoked by our generation, and a lot of vaping, and you know, vaping is vaping, you know, everyone does it. It's definitely bad for you, but you know, do whatever you want, you know. But I really feel like a lot of kids are surprisingly like into pills, because I feel like a lot of like the cultural stuff around it makes like pills seem exciting, or like codeine or all of that. I feel like a lot of kids, I feel like a lot of kids really get into it, and that's one of the most dangerous paths to go down, I think, is pill use, and you know, because a lot of stuff's laced with fentanyl now, and a lot of drug overdoses happen. So definitely be safe out there if you are. But if you do it medically, you know, if you have medical drugs, you know, I'm not going to get into the whole big pharma thing, but you know, if they're prescribed to you and they're helping you, and you know, do what you will.
Yeah. Have you seen people in your life suffer from drug use?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people suffer everywhere that I've been. Mostly here, I've seen it a lot, and it's definitely heartbreaking. It's difficult seeing people that you love go through really difficult times with drugs, especially because like I feel like in my situation I feel powerless, and because you can't really do anything, you know. If you try to like tell them about it or try to change their mind, a lot of the times they get closed off and it'll just make it worse. And it's difficult, man. Like, not even to be selfish saying that it's like difficult on me to see it, but like you want everyone that you love to be doing good, and you know, when people are on drugs doing bad, it's difficult to see.
It is, dude. Is there any drugs you want to quit at the moment?
I want to be like finally 100% like nicotine free. I think that's my biggest thing. Like, I want to be able to like not think about it, not ever go back to it, don't have like occasional slip ups. I want to be like completely free of it. The problem, I think, is for me, like, I just don't want to be like 30 years old still hitting a vape or still like busting or being dependent on nicotine, because it only gets like worse over time. Like, the longer you vape, the harder it gets to quit, and I just want to not be dependent on it, because, you know, my biggest thing is like I use it for anxiety. Like, if you're ever anxious or in an awkward moment, like, you just hit a vape, you chill out. It's a good like anxiety stress relief, and I want to be able to do that sober.
Is there a message out there you want to give to everyone watching?
I really want people to be able to find happiness not in drugs, and that's a really difficult thing to do, and I understand it like varies person to person, but I wish more people were able to find happiness in just being alive and in their life, you know. I feel like a lot of people use drugs as an escape. I feel like that's like the biggest reason people do drugs, and I really want people to, you know, like I said, find happiness in being sober, just in life in general, and in things that you love doing.
Good shit, man.
I think smoking weed and vaping is the most common drug use in our generation. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with weed. I think there are a lot of truly, truly great aspects about it, but I've seen a lot of negatives come from it as well. I've seen kids lose all motivation for what they valued and live just to smoke. I've seen people depend their entire mental health on getting high to escape, and I've seen people spend every single dollar they have on weed. There are more kids in our generation that vape than I could count. It's become almost common for, you know, someone to vape, and I don't think I need to explain to you why vaping is bad. We are the instant gratification generation, and we are feeding into it.
I'm recording this video specifically on a really difficult night for me, which is like the biggest reason that I wanted to make this. One of the biggest things that I'm having trouble quitting right now is nicotine. I completely quit weed. I've been completely sober from weed, any other drug that I've ever done. I don't want to say all the drugs that I've done on here, but I've been completely sober from everything. The only things that I have not been sober from are nicotine and alcohol. I have not quit nicotine, and even alcohol in itself has not been like nearly as detrimental to my life as nicotine has. And nicotine hasn't been bad in the ways of like my physical health, which it has like partially damaged, obviously. You know, vaping hurts your physical health, but it's been a lot of the things around me, which I never really considered that drugs could do, is, you know, beyond ruining your mental and ruining your physicals, they can ruin your, like, the life around you very easily, which is something that I wish I really like took into account. You know, I hurt people around me because of the way that I act when I'm on drugs or when I need drugs. You know, makes you like not yourself really. When you're not yourself, it's really easy to hurt people. It can change like the actions that you do, like the way that you spend your time, the way that you spend your money. It can deeply affect that as well. It can affect your impulse control, which has been a huge one for me. I feel like I've been clean from nicotine for like 2-3 weeks, and that entire time I've just found it incredibly difficult to control my impulses. whether it be a number of things, like biting my nails, which I tried really hard to do, which I couldn't do, overeating, eating to like satisfy that like impulse, you know, that like lack of impulse control, overeating, excessively like picking at my skin or like messing with my acne with alcohol. I found that it kind of like dulls the enjoyability of life. Like I drink because I feel like it'll make me feel better, and then I drink and it just kind of makes everything the exact same, but just like duller. I can't feel as much. I don't think as smart. I don't get as much accomplished. It just takes who I am and makes like a dumber version. I feel like in the time from the last video, I have learned a lot of things, and I obviously haven't, you know, mastered or understood addiction completely because I'm still suffering with it. And as I'm recording this video, I'm having really bad nicotine withdrawal, and it just makes me like, makes me want to like crawl out of my skin in a lot of ways. Makes me want to puke because I just feel like overwhelmed. And it's not even the nicotine specific that does that. It's just that when you face problems in your life and you're so used to coping with them using a drug, when you don't have the drug, it makes it impossible to cope with the problems, which, you know, makes everything worse. And I feel like becoming like emotionally reliant on a lot of drugs has been like a really difficult thing for me to come to terms with, because now that I don't have these drugs and I'm really trying to quit, I have to kind of face the reality of a lot of my emotions, which it's like boo-hoo, you know, you have to fucking grow up and actually face your problems. But I feel like it's still important to talk about that, you know. A lot of addicts, especially on a lower scale like mine, like just having nicotine addiction and alcohol addiction, when you don't have those things, it makes the emotions a lot worse than they really are. And, you know, feeling depressed or sad or anxious are all very toxic mentalities to have, and they can damage you, can damage the life around you. And I've also found with my situation when it comes to drugs is that people are very not understanding. I feel like people will say that they're understanding. Most people who do drugs are, but people who like aren't actually addicted to drugs, I feel like I find it really easy to just like mock it or make fun of it or be like, you know, don't be a little bitch, don't be a pussy, you know, just pull the trigger on it, just get rid of it. But when you're actually in the shoes of someone who's trying to quit, it's incredibly difficult to give a piece of yourself up. You know, like you have to give a piece of yourself up. That's what drugs are. Like you let them become a piece of you in a small way or a big way. And it's, you know, really difficult to let a piece of yourself go. It feels like you're actually losing something, at least for me. I feel like I've been going through a loss. I'm losing a part of me. You know, when I was a teenager, I remember thinking that drugs were like this really cool, fun thing that you could do. And they are. You know, if you have the mentality of like, I can do this in moderation, I can do it just for fun. But I feel like the majority of people, especially kids my age, don't do these drugs for fun anymore. Don't do it just because they want to have a good time. They do it because it's the only way for them to have a good time. That's when they do these drugs. I feel like a lot of people who party constantly party because, you know, the drugs and like the entire vibe of the party is the only way that they can really escape their heads. Looking back on the first detox, you know, I was really naive and ignorant. And I understood how addiction worked, but I didn't understand the quitting process because I hadn't yet, and how difficult the quitting process is and how that really is the most difficult. You know, deciding to quit is easy. Deciding like, all right, I'm gonna make a change in my life is so easy. But then actually putting it practically into your life is incredibly difficult. Like putting in that daily work to constantly be clean and constantly do better every day. My situation is very similar to a lot of the kids my age, and I've seen a lot of my friends fall into drugs and get stuck in these loops and, you know, quit and then come back to drugs, or just start drugs and then digging themselves into a hole until someone else had to dig them out. And it's really depressing. You know, I've seen drugs ruin people's lives. I've seen drugs hurt people's brains, and it's just all really painful to see. And I feel like all this experience I've had in my whole life seeing addiction, I should have known or learned from. So I guess in my situation, I feel obligated to tell people because I feel like, you know, any way that you can get it through to someone, even if it's just one person, is incredibly worth it. Addiction, I'm not here to tell you, you know, like, drugs are awful, drugs are Satan, drugs are that. Drugs are just things. They're not this magical item, you know, they're just things that affect how you think. What I'm telling you is not that drugs are bad, it's that addiction is bad, and that if you do drugs, there's a really good chance you will get addicted. Especially if you start, you know, using it to feel good or using it to cope.
There's too much shit out there to stress you out. This whole world is just drug infested, hate infested, drug infested world. Hate drugs. I heard the worst drug story. You know, my friend told me, you know what he's dealing with? His landlord is hooked on crack. That's terrible. That's pressure. If your landlord's hooked on crack, that means you've gotta have the rent. You come around.
What's your name and where are you from?
My name is Garrett Hudman, and I'm from Amsterdam, New York.
We had a podcast with you, 2 of them actually, explaining your story. I don't want to get too deep into it here, but you have like a pretty decent history with drug use, and you've come a long way from it now. Do you want to talk about like what you attempted to quit since the interview that we did, and how successful were you with everything?
I think the major problem that I had was weed, marijuana. That was like one of the biggest problems I had with trying to quit. People say it's not really an addictive drug, but like just chasing that cloudiness in your fucking head, like, it makes you feel good.
Do you use it as like an escape, would you say?
Oh yeah, I mean, during the time of when I started like taking or smoking a lot of weed was when my father was passing away. So I was using that to like combat my whole grieving process, just to like turn my mind off.
Do you have any regret for doing that, or do you feel like it was really helpful?
It was, I don't even know, like yes and no. You can't really answer that right.
Yeah.
You know? Because I partially don't even fucking remember it.
Yeah. Would you like block it out in your brain so you didn't have to?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, when you're smoking like an ounce a day with 2 other fucking people, you kind of you forget about it.
What did you learn about your relationship with those drugs because of everything that you quit? And
do you want me to state what I've done?
Well, whatever you're comfortable with. You don't have to say anything you don't want to. Whatever drugs you feel like would help people out there.
Definitely Molly. Molly and acid and weed. Those are the only 3 that I've been addicted to.
Yeah.
Can you re-say the question again?
Since quitting them, what did you learn about your relationship with them?
Weed can be your friend but also enemy at the same time, because the amount of the mindset it puts you in and like the atmosphere can really mess you up. With acid, don't overdo it. If you're gonna do it, the whole tab thing, don't do a whole tab. Yeah. Do like a quarter, or don't do 10 tabs all at once prior to doing 4 2 days ago. Because that'll put you in a psychosis.
Yeah, if you're gonna do anything, do it in moderation.
Exactly. I mean, same with Molly. Like, Molly is such a happy drug, I guess you can say. And I abused it. Like, I was eating it, snorting it, smoking it, doing every single thing you could do, except for shoving it up my butt. That's the only thing I didn't do. But that drug is not. I honestly, personally, would just stay away from it, because it's not the greatest thing you could take.
Yeah.
It's fun for the night, but the next 2-3 days you feel like you want to just die. You feel like you want to just. They call it Suicide Monday, because I'm not even joking. Yeah. It boosts your serotonin. your dopamine or whatever you want to say, like it boosts it to 120%, and then the next day you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
It like literally squeezes all of it out.
Are you comfortable with your situation with drugs right now?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I'm currently addicted to is nicotine. I drink alcohol on like some occasions. I'm not like a full...
Just like party or have a good time with your friends.
Exactly. Or just to like have one by yourself after a long fucking day. Like, that's about it.
Yeah, we were talking about it earlier. You said your relationship with nicotine, you kind of like, at the point where like, you know that it's bad for you, but like, you know, it's your life, you want to do what you want, and compared to everything else out there, it's pretty, you know, low on the danger scale.
I think like, just from hearing it, it sounds bad. I mean, but even kids are addicted to it, you know what I mean? Every person has their own personal opinion and choice to do whatever they want. But if you're in the matter of trying to detox, like, don't stop. You know, I've tried 3-4 times with nicotine trying to quit. And the best thing to do is either preoccupy yourself with something else, get outside, do something, instead of constantly being drowned in your thoughts.
Kind of like fill your mind with other things.
Exactly.
But how did people around you react to you quitting drugs? Like, did people pressure you into doing them, or were people really supportive? Or...
See, that's a weird one for me as well. When I quit all of my drugs all in one shot, well, with Molly and weed, I was down in Florida, and I was on the streets. So when it came to that point, like, it was just only up to me to make that decision. When it came to acid, trying to get out of my psychosis was probably my roughest part of my life, because I was confined to my own head. So you couldn't speak. Now, at least I couldn't speak. I would just have the conversation in my mind, but wouldn't even speak. So it was rough for my family and my friends.
Did anyone talk to you about it or support you through it, or were you like you said, kind of on your own with everything?
With acid, it was partially like that. Like I said, you know, I fucked up on my own part with that. So when it came to trying to, it was just a waiting game to get out of that stuff. When it came to like weed and Molly, like that was, you know, if you listen to the podcast, you'll understand how I quit. But it was just my own decision just to not fucking do that stuff anymore.
What are your thoughts on our generation's drug use? Do you think it's a problem? Do you think it could be worse? Or
like,
think about it?
Do you mean our generation or?
Oh yeah, like our generation as a whole.
Gotcha.
Like people our age group. Do you think there's a drug problem in it? Or what do you see the most of?
It sounds fucked up. I really don't. I don't associate myself with our generation, but at the same time, I do see a major nicotine use. But like I said, it's every person has their own choice to do whatever they want. But it's up to you to make that, you know, decision. I would say
bad for you.
I would say like fucking a lot of weed and a lot of nicotine. I mean, shit. I work at a fucking Stewart's, and the amount of swishers and fucking what's the wraps?
The Backwoods?
No. It's a 2-pack. No.
Zigzags?
Zigzags and fucking Bluntvilles, dude. The amount of how many I sell in the matter of a whole shift. Astonishing.
Yeah.
And I'm not even joking. Like, and it's between our age group is the people that buy them.
Have you seen people in your life suffer from drug use?
Yes. Yes, I have, and I don't know if I really want to speak upon that. Because, like I said, it's everybody's choice to do what they want to do. But even when it's like when it's your actual family and they tell you what they've done, and even like I can't even speak upon it because, you know, I've done drugs. But when they're constantly doing it, it's heartbreaking. But it's almost at the point where you can't tell them what to do. You can't, because then it's gonna make them want to do it more. So when it comes to, you just gotta let them go. Let them do their thing. It's their choice, like they said.
Are there any drugs at the moment you want to quit, or you said you were comfortable with it? Is there anything you would like to quit in the future, or do you think you're set?
Like part of me wants to quit nicotine, and I mean, shit, when I go into basic, I'll have it gone for a whole month, but I know for a fact I'll definitely relapse when I come back. Like there's
After
no
all that
doubt
time
about
away,
it.
you're gonna want something.
Exactly, but yeah, I'm comfortable with where I'm at.
Have you learned anything from drugs? Any big lessons you want to share with people? Anything like?
Do it in moderation. Do not, if you have a certain amount of what you have, do not see it as that amount, see it as a smaller amount. I mean, shit, I had a Molly rock that big, I would do it in 3 days. So, and when it came to weed, I had ounces, and I would smoke it in the matter of a week. You know, if you're gonna do stuff, do it in moderation. Don't let your mind and body, or don't let your body take control of your mind and abuse that drug. Nicotine, I don't fucking know. I abuse the shit out of that stuff, so.
Is there a message out there you want to give to everyone watching? It doesn't have to be about drugs, just in general. Any token of advice you want people to leave here with?
I mean, if you're going through a struggle with trying to quit, just know that you're not alone. Like, don't let your mindset think that you are the only one going through it. You know, if you have certain friends or family that you need to speak to about it, or even just like you got to get yourself out of a hole, because when you go to quit something, you fall into a hole where you're like, this fucking sucks, this sucks. You gotta kind of like treat your mind like a kid. Like, your kid has such a short attention span, so once you get your mind set on something, it'll completely forget about what you're trying to quit. It's the best thing I can give you.
You cannot suppress mankind's fascination, curiosity, for whatever motive, in other states of consciousness than the normal. These things are eternally fascinating to human beings and will always be pursued. Whether you think it's a good thing or whether you think it's a bad thing makes no difference. It will be done. You know, if you want to get drunk on beer, you have to put down quite a bit of it. And there is a limit, you know, to how much beer one can swallow in an evening. It's a pure bulk. But in these highly refined elixirs, there isn't that kind of limit. I have discovered that this is not the sort of thing you sort of take every so often, but it's something that you can take several times in a gradually diminishing quantity, and then you've had it. Beyond that, it's up to you to integrate your vision with everyday life and with all the various kinds of knowledge. That's enough is enough. But there are other people who seem to think that the great thing to do is to start out with a little and then keep on going, making it bigger and bigger and bigger, as if they were looking for something that should lie at the end of the line.
I think the biggest thing I want everyone to take away from this documentary is to try your hardest to live a happy life without drugs. Find happiness in things that aren't the effects of drugs, like family, friends, hobbies, traveling, working really hard on something you love, or even just making money if that's what makes you happy. If you aren't a drug user and or know someone who is, try your best to be supportive of them and help them through whatever they have going on, if it's anything at all. Don't look down on people who do drugs. Be understanding and empathetic. Imagine if it was you in their shoes. To anyone who's trying to quit or go sober, I wish you the best of luck. Stay strong, and you're not alone.